Welcome to the Vacay Network Travel Podcast, brought to you by Tripsy, the new travel trivia app that we'll be telling you more about shortly. First, let's fill you in on our podcast. I'm Adrian Bridgebassi, travel journalist and editor of Vacay Network and Vacay.ca, and joining me each week is Jim Byers, one of Canada's most recognized travel journalists and a longtime editor at the Toronto Star. Jim is now the senior editor at Travel Pulse Canada. Jim, how are you?
Just great, Adrian. It's very cool to be part of our first Vacay Network travel podcast and to talk about Tripsy. So this is going to be great.
Awesome. Together, Jim and I will be bringing you the word on all things travel, travel deals, hot travel destinations, tips on how to save and how to make the most out of your precious vacation time. This week, we're talking about Curacao as part of our podcast focus on the Caribbean. We're going to get to test your knowledge and our audience's knowledge too. So, Jim, we've established you're a travel expert and one of the top travel experts in Canada, if not the world. So let's just say the world.
Let's say the world. Yeah, let's do that.
So that said, let's test your knowledge here. You ready?
Oh, sure. Why not? Let's give it a go.
Do you know what the average temperature is in Curacao?
I'm going to guess, I don't off the top of my head, I'm going to say it's probably, let's talk in Fahrenheit, probably around 78.
You're pretty close. It's 80 Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius, and in fact, according to my app right now, it's right on 28 Celsius, and it's going to be that way for the next, several days. How does that sound?
Ooh, put me on a plane, baby.
Yeah. How does 28 degrees sound? Might be the easiest question you get today.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I like it. Okay, let's go.
Did you know that the Spanish actually called Curacao a useless island?
I'm not surprised. If you're looking at it from a purely an agricultural standpoint, it might be a little bit challenging. Of course, what they weren't looking at were the beaches and the sunshine and the lack of rainfall. So a lot of those things that maybe didn't make it particularly attractive to the Spanish, who are probably looking for gold and other things, make it a fantastic destination for North Americans trying to get away in the wintertime, or any other time of year for that matter.
Yeah, that was back in the in the 15th and 16th centuries when the Spanish actually got to Curacao, and soon after that they left. The Dutch took over, and they made it a central point for a lot of their trading between the East and the West. So they made a go of it.
Absolutely.
Let's see, another question for you. Do you know what the name Curacao actually means?
I should know this. I don't know what it means. I know there's a Curacao liqueur that's very good. I know it's a pretty cold place. I had a great time when I was there, and the actual meaning, you stumped me on that one. Okay, well,
there's a couple of different meanings, and you kind of go in there with the Curacao liqueur. It's if you believe that alcohol is healing.
That's what I tell myself, yeah.
Because it's nicknamed the Healing Island, and a lot of belief is that the name comes from the Portuguese word coração, which is means for the heart. So, and Curacao is a very heartfelt place, as you know, since you've been there.
Absolutely.
Another one. Did you know that Curacao has a Black Panther connection?
I don't know about the Black Panther connection. I know it's close to South America, and I know there are panthers in Central America, but I'm suspecting that's not where you're going with this one.
No, this is this is actually kind of cool, and you're right. It has nothing to do with the real Black Panther, the animal. It has nothing to do with Marvel Comics or Chadwick Boseman. The Black Panther is actually a nickname of a guy named Ergilio Hato. I'm guessing you've never heard of him.
No, that's the airport is named after him.
Hey, there you go. You say yes. The airport is named after this guy. So, Ergilio Hato is maybe the greatest sporting legend in the history of Curacao. And you know baseball. You know Andrew Jones and a lot of those guys.
Andrew Jones, yeah.
A lot of those guys are there. But Hato wasn't a baseball player. He was a soccer goalkeeper, and because of his quickness, he was called the Black Panther. And this guy was so good back in the 1940s and 50s, he was considered one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he's so important to Curaçao's identity that they've named the airport after him, as you mentioned.
I kind of like Black Panther Airport.
Yeah, I do too. That'd be really awesome. Plus their biggest sports stadium and lots of other stuff. So it's kind of neat. Like we fly into airports here in Canada or in the States, and most of them are named after a politician.
Right,
in Curacao, you're going into an airport named after a politician or after an athlete, which is
that's
nice.
Fantastic. I like it.
So obviously we've talked about you being the Curacao. You tell me what are some of the things that have struck you as amazing facts about the place?
Well, one of the things I really enjoyed was the lack of development on a lot of the beaches up in the northwestern side of the island. Don't ask me to give me the pronunciations in Dutch, but there were a couple up there, Knip, maybe.
Big Knip, yeah.
Yeah, Knip, yeah, which was really terrific. There was 2 or 3 of them all in a row, and I was really struck by the lack of development. And the gentleman explained there's what they've tried to do is put a lot of the resorts in areas of the country that are very nice, but not necessarily have these big glittering beaches, and they wanted to leave some of those for just the general populace and for other visitors to come and see. So when you go to a lot of these beaches like Knip, you'll notice there that there's hardly any development. You look down and you look from a little promontory up above, and you look down, it's just this golden stretch of sand, maybe a little tiki bar, but not, a big 18-story building that kind of mars the landscape. So I thought that was really terrific. Over on the other coast, there's a national park called Sete Boca, which is a series of beautiful caves. You do have to be careful if it's high tide or if there's rough weather. I was there during a little bit of a storm, and the waves pounding the coast were just amazing. Oh my goodness, it was really a terrific spot. Down in the town in Willemstad, there's a little area kind of across the river that's called Otrabanda, and we went over there and had some green rum. That was kind of fun.
Oh, right.
There was a bar, I think it's called Netto, Netto.
Yeah.
Netto bar. It's kind of a casual, funky little place. And it seems to me that there was a couple pictures of the King of Holland who'd been in there on a couple of occasions. So I thought any country that's got a king that stops in at the local bar, that's my kind of country.
This is the Vacay Network Travel Podcast, where we discuss travel happenings each week. And this week we're focusing on the Caribbean island of Curacao. Now, the last Did You Know for today is this, and it's intended for the audience, not you, Jim, because you know this already.
I know this, yeah.
But did you know that you can save big time on your trip to Curacao simply by answering trivia questions about it? That's the idea behind Tripsy, which is a new travel trivia mobile app that you can download on Android and iOS devices starting in January 2019 and answer questions like the ones you've heard Jim and I discussing here. As you answer, you get points toward flights to Curacao, hotels in Curacao, activities, including lots of scuba and snorkeling deals, which is wonderful, and dining discounts too. And it's islands beyond Curacao as well, lots of them in the Caribbean. So that's a terrific way to choose your next vacation spot, isn't it, Jim?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, everyone wants a deal, no matter what our economic status is. We all want to get a discount. We all love free stuff. Whether it's clipping coupons or playing games online. So I think something like Tripsy is going to be just a huge benefit, and people are going to have a lot. They'll have a lot of fun playing it, and they'll be getting some really great discounts on terrific places and terrific destinations.
Yeah, and as we were kind of having this chat, is everyone loves trivia. So
right. Absolutely, yeah. You're stumping me on a couple of those, so yeah, I got to get back to you on that one.
So full disclosure, Jim and I are both part of the ownership group of Tripsy, and we hope that fact makes everyone more comfortable with playing the game, given that we're journalists and in the media and often have our names and faces out there. We're backing this idea because we think it's a good one for lots of reasons that Jim mentioned, and the rewards that people can get are one of those. So there are hundreds of travel prizes to Curacao and other Caribbean islands on Tripsy, and the biggest prize you'll be playing for is round-trip airfare for 2 people, a VIP experience, a 5-night luxury hotel stay, and $500 spending cash to Curacao. That should be enough to get anyone to sign up, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
A VIP experience, airfare for 2, 5 nights at a great hotel, and $500 to spend is a pretty great thing. And
So
as you know, Adrian, people around the world, travel is one of the most popular activities, especially for millennials. You'll ask them, and they say they'll give up their coffee, they'll give up their girlfriend, they'll give up anything in order to travel the world. So this is a great opportunity for them to do that and win some great prizes.
Especially, you get $500 cash to spend on green rum at the bar if you want.
That could go pretty fast.
Okay, so back to some details of what you can do in Curacao. Other than the beaches and the green rum, what are your highlights of the island?
I had a great time when I stayed there. I was down at the Santa Barbara Resort down in the south end. There was a really low-key, low-rise resort right on the water. There's a great golf course attached to it that I thought was a really nice one. We did a stand-up paddleboard trip that was pretty long, actually. It took more than an hour and a half from the harbor, kind of around the corner, around a point of land, back to the resort. And then there was a fairly extensive, not enormous, but a fairly extensive hiking trail right next to the golf course and right next to the resort, just a short walk away, maybe a couple hundred meters. Uh-huh. And you could walk up through these really cool boulders and get beautiful views looking out over the island. And in fact, you can see all the way from there to South America. So that tells you how far south you are, and it tells you about the weather, because that's a really important draw to Curacao, is being as far south as it is, and that close to South America. They're out of the hurricane belt. There's a funny little spot. I don't know if you've ever been there, but kind of in the middle of the island, there's a giant white sign out in the middle of a field, and it's called Willywood, and it just looks just like the Hollywood sign.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a really crazy place. Like, the guy just did it for a little bit of publicity. I was there, and I was so mad they didn't have any T-shirts, because I thought it was hilarious. You're just driving through this field on the way to the beach, and there's this giant white sign in the middle of a farmer's field. Willywood, Willi, and then wood, and I thought, okay, now that's fun.
That was great. The little marketing that they did there. I think it was just meant as a prank, but it turned out to be one of the most photographed things on the island.
It actually did. I think it's really popular on Instagram, along with the douchey sign down there in town. Which is I think it means thank you, or
it kind of means cool. It means it's
cool,
kind of sexy.
So,
a lot of different connotations for that word. So tell us, how does someone from Toronto or New York, for example, get to Curacao? These folks trying to get away from winter.
Well, it's very easy. I know if you're down in New York or want to connect through New York, JFK, there's direct flights from New York City on JetBlue. Air Canada flies direct as well from Toronto, so it's a very easy flight. It's a little bit less than 5 hours, so it's not a long flight. And like I said, the weather is pretty much guaranteed to be great year round.
Speaking of warming up and getting down to warmer places, that's what we're doing with the Vacay Network Travel Podcast, sponsored by Tripsy, which will be available for download in mid-January. In next week's podcast, we'll be talking about one of Jim's favorite places. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. We'll be talking a little bit about Barbados.
This is Adrian Bridge-Bassey with Jim Byers for the Vacay Network and Tripsy podcast. Join us again for more Travel Talk.